Hello dear students, I am Professor Dr. Dharmendra Sharma, the Dean of the D.Y. Patil Vidyapeeth, Homeopathic Faculty, and also the Principal and the Professor and Head of Department of the Department of Forensic Medicine and Toxicology at the D.Y. Patil Homeopathic Medical College, Pune. Our topic for today is Introduction to Medical Ethics. Now, as we all know that we are into the medical profession now, and that is why ethics is the only topic which differentiates medicine from other professions, because as doctors we are required to be ethically right and never do the wrong thing. There are two different things, one is the law and one is ethics. So, laws are something, if we do not follow the law we can be punished for that, but you cannot be punished just for being unethical. Yet in today's world, doctors are the only people who are expected to be ethical. So, that means it is indirectly a tribute to the medical profession that in today's society also the common man expects that the doctor should be ethically right always. So, if we are introducing today's topic of medical ethics, at this end of this lecture, every student must be able to know first of all what is medical ethics, to know about the historical background of ethics, and also know about the National Commission of Homeopathy and the codes of conduct. So, this is one of the subjects of forensic medicine and medical ethics which will be taught to you in the second year BHMS. Now, we all know that we are into this profession now and we all would love to be called as doctors, especially from the medical field. So, the word doctor has an origination, like we all know that most of the words in English come from Latin and Greek words. So, the word doctor originates from the Latin term which means docere, which means to teach. So, whom are we teaching? So, we are people who are going to learn from the books of nature and teach our patients every day about matters pertaining to health. So, historically a doctor who is someone regarded as a learned teacher or a scholar, especially in the fields of philosophy and theology. Over the time, the term evolved to refer specifically to individuals who have achieved the highest level of education in a particular field, particularly in the field of medicine. In the context of healthcare, a doctor is a professional who is trained and licensed to diagnose, treat and to care for his patients. While the role primarily involves healing, the root word emphasizes the doctor's role as an educator, both in sharing knowledge with the patients and in advancing the medical science through research and through teaching. We all know about the word, the symbol of the Asclepius staff. To some time back, every doctor used to use a plus sign on his vehicles, on his places of practice. So, the plus sign was used earlier by the doctors, but then as per the Geneva Convention, that plus sign has to be used only by the Red Cross, and therefore, everyone shifted over to the original symbol of a doctor, which is called the rod of Asclepius. It is a symbol associated with medicine and with healing. It features a single serpent coiled around a staff. This symbol comes from the Greek mythology and is linked to Asclepius, who is supposed to be the god of medicine and healing. The staff and the rod, which it is called, represents a simple walking stick, which signifies the physician's practical nature and the journey of learning and healing. The serpent symbolizes rejuvenation, renewal and the healing process. Snakes are associated with shedding their skin, which is seen as a metaphor for renewal or transformation, an essential aspect of healing. Earlier, it was believed that the snake had its own intelligence and also had the qualities which a doctor also should have: caution, foresight and wisdom. These were the qualities which doctors should have, and mythologically it was presumed that the snake also has similar qualities. In Greek mythology, Asclepius was the son of Apollo and a mortal woman named Coronis. He was taught the art of healing by the centaur Chiron, who was half horse and half human being. The serpent was said to have played a role in Asclepius' discovery of healing herbs. Because of his knowledge and skill, Asclepius was able to restore the dead to life, which eventually led to his demise, as Hades feared his powers would disrupt the natural order of life and death. The symbolic use of this staff, the Asclepius staff, is widely used as a symbol of medicine, particularly in healthcare organizations, hospitals, and medical colleges. It is important to note that this symbol is distinct from the caduceus, a staff with two snakes and wings. This is often mistakenly used in the medical context, but traditionally represents peaceful politics, commerce, and negotiation. The Asclepius staff remains a symbol of healing and the medical profession's commitment to restoring health. Medical ethics, as I told you, refers to the systematic and the principled study of moral conduct and decision making in the context of medical practice. It also involves the applications of ethical theories and principles to the field of medicine, aiming to ensure that healthcare providers adhere to the highest standards of moral and professional conduct. This discipline addresses the ethical dimensions of the patient-caregiver relationship, which also we called as the doctor-patient relationship, the obligations of medical professionals, and the broader societal implications of healthcare processes. When we were young, our grandparents always taught us what is right and what is wrong through stories of the Ramayana, through the stories of the Mahabharata. So these value system which was generated in us is the same thing which the doctors needs, and that is exact called as moral values or ethics. Coming to an historical overview of the medical ethics, evolution time from what it was in the ancient times to today's time, the modern times. So the medical ethics as a formal discipline has evolved over the centuries. It has reflecting the changes in the society, the culture, and the medical practice. This overview traces the development of the medical ethics from the ancient times to the present times, highlighting the key milestones that have shaped its principles and practices. Now, if you see here, there is an old sculpture which shows a person who is treating a doctor treating a sick person. So, the Hippocratic Oath, which was made in the 15th century by Hippocrates, one of the earliest and most influential documents in medical ethics is the Hippocratic Oath. It is attributed to Hippocrates. The oath emphasizes principles such as non-maleficence, do no harm, and beneficence, acting in the patient's interests. Patients swearing by the oath promise to treat the sick to the best of their ability and preserve the patient confidentiality. So, all physicians swear and take this Hippocratic oath to treat the sick to the best of their ability and to preserve the patient confidentiality. Roman physician Galen expanded on Hippocratic teachings, emphasizing rationality and observation in the medical practice. In the medieval times, the Islamic physicians with Arabic medicines such as Avicenna integrated the Greek and the Roman and their own ethical principles into comprehensive medical texts, emphasizing the moral conduct and the physician's duty to the patients. Avicenna's The Canon of Medicine provided guidelines for ethical medical practice, including the importance of empathy and compassion. As I told you, the Hippocrates Oath is one of the oldest binding documents in history, originating in ancient Greece around the 5th century BC. This is attributed to Hippocrates, who is often also referred to as the father of medicine. The oath sends forth ethical principles for the physicians. It serves as a foundation text for the field of medical ethics, and it also guides the professional conduct of the doctors through its emphasis upon the various moral obligations and duties which a doctor needs to follow. Some key elements of the Hippocratic Oath are the principle of non-maleficence, which means do no harm. The physician's pledge to avoid causing harm to the patients, a principle which is known as non-maleficence. This is encapsulated in the phrase primum non nocere, which means first do no harm. Coming to the second key element, it is beneficence. This oath stresses the importance of acting in the best interest of the patient, promoting well-being and providing beneficial treatments. Then we have confidentiality. It emphasizes the need of the doctor to respect the patient privacy and maintain confidentiality about patient information, which builds the trust between the patients and the healthcare providers. Then we come to professional integrity. The physicians committing to practicing medicine with honesty and integrity, avoiding unethical behaviors such as exploitation or taking advantage of the patient. So, doctor is supposed to have professional integrity. Then comes respect for teachers and the medical tradition. The oath underscores the respect for one's teachers and the commitment to pass on the medical knowledge to the next generation of physicians. A modern physician swearing by the Hippocratic Oath commits to maintaining patient confidentiality and ensuring informed consent and treating patients with the highest standard of healthcare. For instance, when discussing treatment options with any patient, the physician must present all the relevant information truthfully, respect the patient's autonomy in making decisions, and choose interventions that maximize the benefits while minimizing the harm. From Renaissance to the Enlightenment, Renaissance from the 14th to the 17th centuries, there was a revival of classical knowledge and a focus human dignity in the scientific method. The renewed interest in the Hippocratic principles and the integration of ethics with emerging scientific knowledge. So, these studies were conducted with respect for human dignity and accuracy and an honesty in research. In the 17th and 18th centuries, which is termed as the time of enlightenment, emphasis on reason, individual rights and scientific inquiry, development of the concepts such as informed consent and patient autonomy. Some examples are George Gregory and Thomas Percival. Enlightenment physicians wrote extensively on stressing the importance of patient rights and the moral responsibilities of the physicians. In the 19th century, there was a professionalization in medicine. There was an establishment of formal medical associations and ethical codes. The American Medical Association, the AMA, founded in 1847, introduced one of the first comprehensive codes of medical ethics. Example is the AMA Code of Medical Ethics, which sets standards of professional conduct, including the principles of competence, respect for patient autonomy and confidentiality. In the 20th century, we have come up with the Nuremberg Code of 1947, developed in response to the unethical medical experiments which were conducted during the World War II, which the whole world has seen. Established principles for conducting all the ethical medical research, emphasizing the voluntary consent and the necessity for avoiding harm. The Nuremberg Code's requirement for informed consent has become a cornerstone of research ethics. Then we come to the Declaration of Helsinki 1964. This was issued by the World Medical Association. It provided guidelines for medical research involving human subjects, emphasized also the importance of protecting patient welfare and obtaining the informed consent, which we will be discussing later on. The Declaration of Helsinki influenced global standards for clinical trials and research ethics. In 70s, we have seen the emergence of the field of bioethics, integration of ethical analysis with advances in biology and medicine. Influential texts like the Beauchamp and the Childress's Principles of Biomedical Ethics 1979 articulated the core principles of the autonomy, beneficence, non-maleficence and justice. Bioethics addresses complex issues such as genetic testing, end-of-life care and organ transplantation. We have come to the contemporary period about global health ethics, which focuses on the ethical issues in global health, including equity, access to care and public health ethics. Also the development of international ethical guidelines by bodies like the World Health Organization or the WHO as we all know it. Ethical considerations in responding to the global health crisis such as the COVID-19 pandemic and the highlight the need for balancing individual rights with public health measures. Now we have come to the digital age and medical ethics, where we have a lot of challenges. So ethical challenges arising from the advancements in technology such as telemedicine, electronic health records and artificial intelligence in healthcare. We are having ongoing discussions about the privacy, data security and the ethical use of all the new technologies. Ensuring confidentiality of patients and informed consent in the context of telemedicine consultations is a huge challenge in front of all of us. If we have to define medical ethics, it is that branch of applied ethics that concerns the moral principles and the guidelines governing the practice of medicine. It also involves the critical examination of the values and the moral principles that underpin the decisions and actions in healthcare. It also guides the behavior of the healthcare professional in their interactions with patients, colleagues and with society at large. Medical ethics encompasses the issues such as patient rights, professional conduct, confidentiality and the equitable distribution of healthcare resources. The core principles of medical ethics is autonomy, beneficence, non-maleficence and justice. Autonomy in respecting the patient's right to make an informed consent or an informed decision about their own health care. This principle emphasizes the importance of obtaining informed consent and honoring the patient's choices of preferences. Non-maleficence means avoiding harm to the patient. This principle often summarized the phrase "do no harm" requires the healthcare providers to carefully consider the potential risk and the benefits of any intervention. Then beneficence is one of the core principles which acts in the best interest of the patient by providing beneficial treatments and interactions. This principle focuses on promoting the patient's well-being and preventing harm. Then the other principle is justice. It ensuring fairness and equity in the distribution of healthcare resources. This principle addresses issues such as access to care, allocation of scarce resources, and the fair treatment of all the patients. Consider a scenario where a patient with terminal cancer is presented with the option of undergoing a new treatment. The experimental healthcare provider must apply the principles of medical ethics so as to guide their actions. Autonomy, beneficence, non-maleficence, and justice. The provider must ensure that the patient is fully informed about the potential benefits, risks, and uncertainties associated with the experimental treatment, allowing the patient to make an autonomous decision. Beneficence, the provider should recommend the treatment only if it is believed to offer a significant potential benefit to the patient's quality of life or the lifespan. Non-maleficence, the provider must weigh the potential harms of the treatment against its benefits, avoiding any intervention that may cause unnecessary suffering or harm to the patient. And justice, where the doctor should consider the fair allocation of the experimental treatment, ensuring that all the eligible patients have an equal opportunity to access it. Coming to the Indian context of the medical ethics, the medical ethics in India has evolved through a rich history, influenced by ancient traditions, the colonial rule, and modern developments. It encompasses a blend of traditional values, legal frameworks, and contemporary bioethical principles, reflecting the diverse and the dynamic nature of Indian society. In the ancient and in the medieval periods, Ayurvedic tradition came up, and the textual sources which said that the ancient Indian texts such as the Charaka Samhita and the Sushruta Samhita, which came up in the first or in the 2nd century, provided some of the earliest references to medical ethics. These texts emphasize duties like compassion, competence, confidentiality, and non-maleficence. The Charak Samhita instructs the physicians to treat patients with empathy and dedication, ensuring that no harm comes to them. Then we had the Buddhist and the Jain influences. The core teachings of both of these were that both religions emphasized non-violence, ahimsa, compassion, and the alleviation of suffering. The ethical principles, these principles influenced the ethical conduct of healthcare providers, promoting patient welfare and moral integrity. Coming to the next, which is Unani medicine, there is an integration with the Greek and the Persian traditions. Unani medicine, influenced by the Greek and Persian medical knowledge, also contributed greatly to the ethical practice of medicine in olden medieval India. Unani physicians were guided by the ethical codes that emphasized patient care, confidentiality, and professional conduct. In the colonial and the post-colonial periods, there has been a British colonial influence and an introduction of the Western medical ethics. The British introduced Western medical practices and ethical standards, influencing the development of modern medical ethics in India. In regarding to medical education, the establishment of medical colleges and institutions introduced formal ethical guidelines for medical practice. The Medical Council of India was established in 1933, and the MCI played a crucial role in regulating medical education and practice. The ethical standards MCI developed a code of ethics for the physicians, emphasizing professional conduct, patient care and confidentiality. The MCI guidelines require the doctors to obtain informed consent, maintain patient confidentiality and provide health care without any discrimination. The National Commission of Homeopathic Act 2020 regulates homeopathic education and practice of homeopathy in India, ensuring adherence to the ethical guidelines. These acts establish regulatory bodies to oversee the ethical conduct of medical and homeopathic practitioners. The professional conduct and the code of conduct by the National Commission of Homeopathy, NCH as we call it in India, has established a comprehensive professional code of conduct aimed at ensuring the highest standards of ethical practice amongst homeopathic practitioners. The NCH or the National Commission of Homeopathy Professional Conduct, Etiquette and the Code of Ethics for Practitioners of Homeopathy Regulations 2022. This code now serves as a guiding framework to uphold the integrity, professionalism and moral responsibility of homeopathic doctors in their interaction with patients, colleagues and society at large. Central to the NCH's code of conduct is the principle of patient welfare, which mandates that practitioners prioritize the health, well-being and dignity of their patients above all. Homeopaths are required to obtain informed consent before initiating any kind of treatment, ensuring that the patients are fully aware of their condition, the proposed treatment plan and any potential risks or benefits. Confidentiality is another cornerstone of the code, obligating the practitioners to safeguard patient information and disclose it only when legally required or with the patient's support. National Commission for Homeopathy's Professional Conduct, Etiquette and Code of Ethics for Practitioners of Homeopathy Regulations 2022 also emphasizes professional competence, requiring homeopaths to continue updating their knowledge and skills through ongoing education and training. This commitment to lifelong learning ensures that practitioners provide care based on the latest scientific evidence and advancements in homeopathy. So, this is what the meaning of doctor derived from the Latin word docere we were talking about. Continuous learning for doctors, because you need to learn every day in order to teach your patients every day. Learn something new so that you can give the newest of the things to your patients. Ethical practice in research is also highlighted with strict guidelines for conducting clinical trials and studies, ensuring that they adhere to the ethical standards and respect the rights and welfare of the participants. The code of conduct made by the NCH also addresses professional behavior, mandating that homeopaths maintain a respectful and a congenial relationship with their peers to avoid any form of malpractice or exploitation and contribute positively to the advancement of the homeopathic profession. In addition to this, the code also includes provisions for transparency and accountability, requiring the homeopaths to provide clear and honest communication about their services, fees and any conflicts of interest. Practitioners are also encouraged to engage in community service and public health initiatives, reflecting the broader social responsibility of the medical profession. By adhering to these ethical guidelines, homeopathic practitioners under the National Commission of Homeopathy are expected to foster trust, enhance the patient care and uphold the dignity and honor of the profession of homeopathy. Contemporary developments have also been there, like the emergence of bioethics. With the advancements in medical technology and research, bioethics has gained prominence in India. Establishment of bioethics centers and adoption of international ethical guidelines have strengthened the ethical framework of homeopathic medicine. The Indian Council of Medical Research and the Central Council of Research in Homeopathy provide guidelines for ethical research practices, including informed consent and ethical review processes. There are many legal acts and regulations which bind doctors. Example is the Clinical Establishments Act 2010, which regulates the registration and functioning of clinical establishments, ensuring the standards of care and ethical practice. Then we have the Mental Health Care Act 2017, emphasizes the patient rights, informed consent and confidentiality in mental health care. The Mental Health Care Act ensures that the patients receive treatment with dignity and with respect, and their consent is obtained before any intervention. There are many current ethical challenges with us. We have healthcare access and equity, disparities in healthcare, which addresses the ethical challenges of providing equitable healthcare access in a diverse and in a populous country like ours. It also needs ensuring that the marginalized communities have access to quality healthcare services. In cases of end of life care and euthanasia, we have a big ethical challenge. Then ethical debates around the end of life care, palliative care and euthanasia are very, very important. The Supreme Court of India's ruling on passive euthanasia and living wills, reflecting the ethical consideration of patient autonomy and dignity. Regarding medical research and trials, we need to ensure that ethical conduct in clinical trials and research wherever human subjects are involved. A strict adherence to the ethical guidelines for informed consent and protection of participants in clinical research. Coming to the end of the session, to summarize it, medical ethics provides a framework of healthcare professionals to navigate the professional and the moral dilemmas and deliver care which respects the dignity, the rights and the well-being of the patients. It is so essential component of professional medical practice that we cannot do without ethics. Medical ethics is important for all of us to become good doctors with values and to avoid getting into wrong things or wrongdoings during our practice. Dr. Hahnemann, the founder of homeopathy, always wanted homeopathic doctors to have first the patient in mind and everything comes next. That's why he has talked that the physician's high and only mission is to restore the sick to health, to cure as it is termed. Dr. Hahnemann was a thinker and a researcher and a person who kept reading. So that is why the meaning of the word dossier, which means to teach and to learn, is something which Dr. Hahnemann did all his life. He always read, he knew so many languages that his reading helped him to evolve from an allopathic doctor, which he was initially, to a homeopathic doctor, where he has given all of us this system of medicine which is safe and sure. And that is why in the days when Dr. Hahnemann used to practice, he had seen that the conventional medicine or the traditional medicine, which was called as allopathy, that were the medicine which used to harm the patients because they believed in bloodlettings and leeching the patients and in such treatments which used the harm to the patient. And that is why he came up with this wonderful system of medicine, and also we know that he taught us that we should be an unprejudiced observer and told us that he was well aware of the futility of transcendental speculations which receive no confirmation from experience. So we should all be only focus on the symptoms of the patient and the well-being of the patient. So I am sure in this lecture all of you all have understood the value of medical ethics, and that even though I told you earlier that you cannot be punished for being unethical, but we need to set a trend for homeopathy, and we are not bothered about the laws of homeopathy and what is legally wrong, but we want to become good doctors. So I am sure all of you are going to become good doctors in your life and bring the good name to homeopathy. Thank you very much.